I have improved the GPT-5 Context Engineer greatly. Now it not only produces the necessary questions that needs to be answered for a topic to be fully understood, but also actually answers them. We will demo this app, but its output goes something like this. The user, let me actually demonstrate it to you. The user actually enters a topic. It can be a question or a topic that you would like to understand. For example, it could be something like NVIDIA future prospects. And then it asks the purpose of this research. You can leave this empty, but you can enter something like investment. And then it asks you a time frame. Because we are allowing web search both in the question generation phase and the answer generation phase, you can enter something like last 6 months so that the agent will actually focus on information that it finds through web search, but only for the last six, the information that is present in this given time frame. Also, this affects the question generation as well. The time frame can be entered as like last 6 months, a year, a time frame from certain time to another certain time, like or something like during Great Depression. So you can define these as such. So when you run something like this, let's run. It'll be enter the question generation phase, and it will eventually create a folder and save the questions like this. Here in this case, we are only generating 3 questions, but you can either specify that any way you like, but via the variable here. So it'll pick a section and it'll generate questions because since we are only allowing for 3 questions, it only created 1 question for a section, but it is capable of generating many questions. Here, for example, the purpose was empty. If we take a look at this, here the purpose was NVIDIA future and investment. And the folder is named by the topic, the purpose, and the time frame. And here we have created the questions, and this is saved to NVIDIA future prospects. Here are the questions. As you can see, the questions take into account the time frame that is given. And now it also prints the token usage and usage dollar cost of this using the flex mode. For example, this costed us about 12 cents, including the web search calls. The agent made actually 5 web search calls to generate these questions. At this point, it asks us if we want to generate the answers. Let's go ahead and say yes. And we use async to generate the answers to this. And once the answers are generated, we save each individual answer to its own folder, but then we actually combine them at the end as well. The individual answers come with citations, but there's an option to remove citations when answering so that the combined answer is a markdown without the citation. So this is a context that you can use to either read it as a report or actually give it to a large language model as context. That's why I call this the context engineer, but you can use this very much so for answering your questions or generating reports. I hope to improve on this, but the code for this will be available at my Patreon if you're watching this from YouTube or as a free member at Patreon or at Twitter. The links will be in the comment, in the description, also in the post that you see this video at. And this will be available for paying members. I also generated a web app for this, Fast API. I asked both Sonnet and GPT-5 to generate the web app. These are working web apps, and I'll include that, but I will make a separate video dealing with those because I want to do a comparison between Sonnet and GPT-5 on refactoring this Python script with a lot of details in it. As you can see, a lot of options and converting it into a web app. And I can already tell you that Sonnet actually did a much better job as far as designing it. Here I can show you this is the Sonnet's version. And here is the GPT's version. I like the conciseness of GPT's version, but clearly Sonnet did a much better job designing it, but that's for another video. So here, two of the calls are completed. One of them did 3 web search calls. One of them did 7, and here are its costs that are associated. Now I wanted to limit the web search calls for answer generation to 3. and we are trying to limit it via the prompt, because there is, as far as I know, there is not a direct way to give it how many web search maximum of web search tool calls that it should execute. So we are trying to limit it via its prompt. It often adheres to that, but sometimes it doesn't. The reason why this is important is that the more web search calls that are taking place, the context grows exponentially, almost quite large. I've seen context sizes of almost 1 million. And it is interesting that, GPT-5 doesn't have 1 million context window, but apparently API does some magic in the background to handle that. So we are trying to limit it to 3 via a prompting strategy, and most of the time it works. And here you can see your total cost. This run, for example, costed us about 50 cents using flex mode. And here are the answers. You can read through them one by one, and here is the combined answer. And if we look at this combined answer, for example, on how many tokens of information, this has 8,000 tokens of information. I'm using the OpenAI tokenizer. Of course, the more questions you allow to be asked, the context will grow with that. You can actually leave the questions to none, and then the model will generate as many questions. You can often generate 20, 30, 40 questions to answer your question or to understand a particular topic. But then, of course, be aware of the cost. Even at flex mode, this cost can grow up to $3 or $5 range, depending on how many questions are being asked. So taking a look at the code, we define configuration for question asking. For example, you can set your model. You can set GPT-5 Mini, for example, if you want. You can set your reasoning effort. You can enable or disable web search for question generation. The reason why I wanted web search for question generation is that maybe there is something that needs to be searched before the questions are generated to make them more aware of the recent developments given the topic. You can turn this off. Service tier is set to flex so that we are incurring half the cost. We set the pricing options here so that we can calculate the cost, and answering configuration here. You can turn off the web search for that, reasoning effort, service tier. You can actually set your output to either markdown or text. If you prefer text, you can change this to text. The output directory says output, but this will be overwritten by the topic, purpose, and time frame in a sanitized, nice way. You can set the max concurrency for parallel operations. Here I set it to 100. You can choose to remove the citations from the final report, which I default set to true. And here is how many maximum web searches that are allowed. You can also retake user input from the terminal for user topic, purpose, and time frame, but you can set these here directly if you want to. And other than that, the most important parts are the prompt. Here, I'll display them to you. This was the question generation, and this is the answer generation prompt. Like I said, these will be available at my Patreon. I hope to improve upon this, and I hope to make another video talking about these web apps, comparing how GPT-5 and Sonnet fared against each other when refactoring this code. This is actually pretty concise. A lot is going on in this code for just 600 lines. I like how GPT-5 makes everything very concise. However, like I said, there's a lot going on. The tokens calculations, the cost calculations, the web search, the options. And I was surprised both GPT-5 and Sonnet was able to convert it into a web app. So that's a good thing, I suppose. And if you do want to download this code, you can become a patron. If you do become a patron, you'll also have access to 400 and more other applications that I've written for LLM powered applications. Now, if you wanted my help in your projects or want to hire me as a consultant, you can also do that. Just go to the link and go to the membership options, and you can see what options there are. If you're interested, take a look, and thank you for watching.